Dear viewers, welcome to today's format visit. And again, thank you for all the numerous entries you have sent to Visite at QS24.TV. It wasn't easy to focus on important things, but I found one question very nice, from Manuela. Manuela, you wrote to me that you are going back to a cycle, to a menstruation cycle that is very regular. That is very regular without tension, without pain, but that as a mother of 2 children, you are constantly put into episodes where you fall into a psychological lability, experience fluctuations that then set your tolerance limit pretty low, which of course is very painful for you, that you lose tolerance towards children. And you wished for everything in the world to avoid these psychological falls, and have now already tried to take magnesium, about 700 milligrams a day. And you have been taking it for several months, also locally in use. You are taking vitamin D 5,000 units. You have been taking the zeolite powder for 2 months, and you are taking an on-bibiotic cure for 3 months. And you ask me, what do I think of monk's pepper? And you are on a big path, as I see it, to go this path alone, and I would like to answer that. How close a hormonal situation is linked to the psyche is of course also very clear in these special episodes, and that is so. So that is why life does not have a different melody to play all of a sudden. But our stability within the framework of this psychological stability is sometimes unbelievable filigree in these days. And what we know today is really that vitamin D has a very important factor to talk about here. Now we see in many processes that vitamin D level is a hormone, and not only a vital hormone, but also a hormone vital for survival. This hormone is of course also due to the necessity that the body takes a very normal and healthy metabolism. That means it is so elementary important that it does not have to be dependent on the body to form it, but it does form it, it produces the cholesterol. And from the cholesterol it has to be converted with the help of UV light into the inactive and later into the active vitamin D. You write that you have been taking vitamin D in 50-100 units for some time now with 100 micrograms of vitamin K2. We know that vitamin D is involved in the formation of progesterone, not progesterone, estrogen. We know that it is involved in the formation of the parathyroid hormone, and that it also positively influences the egg reserve in the ovaries, the so-called anti-Muller effect, this anti-Muller hormone. Many things we don't know yet, but it is very important that you now follow this question. How is my active vitamin D, and not only measure the vitamin D25OH, but also measure the 1.25OH, and possibly even the vitamin D receptor. Today, autoimmune events are not even medically looked at in advance. For example, you can observe a development of autoantibodies in the course of time. We know that many autoimmune events today are due to a disrupted vitamin D metabolism, and in the foreground at this point, there is actually no one who is directly aware of this. But you should now really put a lot of value on these things and also look at the vitamin 1.250H, the vitamin D25OH, and possibly also the vitamin D receptor. To see how high the metabolism is in the active vitamin, and if there is an unequal relationship with the receptor. Can vitamin D be used? Then, of course, doses like 5,000 are really ridiculous. A small child of 1 year has to take 400 units. The child up to the 12th year of life, let's say, rises to 1,000 units, and from about 12 kilos, let's say 1,000 units plus 12 kilos, so that adds up. Today, vitamin D doses are also quite low. So many processes play such an important role that we humans get into severe vitamin D deficiency syndromes, and I am still deeply touched by how many people really have very low values. That should have been discussed, and there should also be a screening study, at least in October. And I have to know about these things. That can be a bit of a key to the whole thing. So let that be measured. If you take more than 5,000 units, then please take vitamin K2 in the form that you not only take 100, but 200 micrograms. But here I would clear the way up. Of course, accompanied by a doctor, controlled, but see what situation you then catch these processes. The second thing that is close to my heart when I read your email, please let a HPU be examined on you. This cryptoporology is at least 15, if not 20% of the population, a metabolic disorder that we don't even perceive. But we can recognize in the background the various symptoms of various diseases. And we have to know that. That means we see in a 24-hour urine how zinc, manganese, chromium, magnesium, but above all B6, vitamin B6, are excreted. And these things contribute to the fact that the body now may also be called with detoxification functions, and premenstrual means the body prepares itself, valves open, the detoxification cascade goes up. But if you take vitamin B6 as one of the most important cofactors for the absorption of zinc and magnesium, for the absorption, for the docking of zinc to the cell receptor, for the development of steroid hormones, for the entire hormone synthesis, only vitamin B6 is active vitamin B6, for all hemoglobin and myoglobin synthesis, for the neurotransmitters, so serotonin, dopamine, my happiness hormone, for the histamine decomposition, for the glutathione synthesis, so detoxification plays an incredible role. And if B6 is not there sufficiently, then the detoxification phase 1 and 2 begin to become a big problem. That means the body now it cannot prepare toxically for menstruation, and must somehow transfer it in the organism to another position. I would not want to overlook this at your place. Sometimes you put the vitamin B6 mirror in the serum and it is good. The HPU test may not show a clear statement, but do not take all B vitamins for 4 weeks. And now really prove this bioactive vitamin B6P5. Then you sometimes still come to big key questions. And this is not only important for the menstruation cycle and for your psychological lability, but it is also important to perhaps recognize a basic problem, which I can express in your still young years, but on this problem. And that is why I would ask you to pay attention to a HPU 24-hour urine and of course B vitamins and zinc. Before you then initiate this urine test, do not take it for more than a week. I repeat, if you test the active vitamin B6, you have to cancel the B vitamins for 4 weeks, also where B6 is included, to really understand the proof in the blood. So vitamin D is very important. Really rely on a HPU and exclude it, and also exclude these micronutrient deficiencies. And the other thing is that, of course, the monk's pepper is a very interesting plant. Especially when in the context of psychological problems, premenstrual, but also at the beginning of the period, you can compensate very well with the monk's pepper. The other thing also applies to the black cohosh plant. I have a lot of experience with simicifuga, and there is also with hormonal dysregulation, when you come into menopause, but also premenstrual, like these partially psychological to depressive moods. You can do that with the black cohosh plant. They are rich in many secondary plant substances, such as isoflavones and simicifuga acid. You can compensate that very nicely, but it would not do it primarily, but really clear the other things serologically. Homeopathic good experience with sepia, especially premenstrual, is always pointed out as a homeopathic. And I hope I could help you a little bit further. Your children are happy in the future to find a strong, healthy, tolerant, and calm mother, as in all the other days at this time. Believe me, the body speaks to us, it signals its help to us. And what might be a problem for you at that moment is expressed in the clinical picture. But that is not a big problem for my terms, to really go after the matter and to look a little deeper. The other question came from Andrea. Andrea, thank you very much for your email. And you have a very interesting question, which I can also answer briefly. And that is, apart from your nice first sentence, that you thank yourself for all these contributions, which are very enriching for you. You write that you have a question about Darkfield microscopy and zeolite. With a Darkfield microscopy, rouleau formation and threads came to light. When I told the naturopath that I have been taking zeolite for a long time, I got the answer that zeolite is generally great, but at the moment it would not be so good for the hemogram. Do you agree? Is that not possible? Does the blood have to be corrected first, so that zeolite works? Is there a general indication that zeolite prohibits? And I would like to answer that I am of course a great admirer of Prof. Hecht, a physiologist who has been using this substance for the last 20 years. It is a mineral of rock, zeolite, one of the most silica-acidic rocks of the crust of the earth. He researched it and has been taking zeolite every day for the last years or decades. He took it in and became old and peaceful until a few days before his 100th birthday. Professor Hecht was able to present us with incredibly valuable study results. In the zeolite, of course, there is the carbonic acid. It is bound to aluminum in nature, but the degree of etching makes the zeolite so high quality that we take it in a form as a high-grade ground powder. It is not only the carbonic acid, but the valuable minerals that a human organism needs. And the moment I take in zeolite, I stir it up in water with a wooden spoon or a straw. I can drink it. It is drinkable. And this zeolite has 3 functions. It binds parasitic basic structures, fungi, histamine, but also a lot of toxins, whether heavy metals, aluminum, or light metals. That means that when the liver pours it into the small intestine at night, it is directed in the right direction by the binding of zeolite. But by stirring it up with a wooden spoon, the zeolite falls apart into its ionized form and is also absorbed by the body. And now it has an effect on our acid-base balance and on mineralization. I have to tell you honestly, according to the results of Professor Hecht, there are no contraindications. I cannot rule out from this question that a rouleau formation could not allow the intake of zeolite in any way. What a rouleau formation shows is that blood is not in the norm, that blood does not flow, that the erythrocytes, the red blood cells, do not have an optimal membrane tension, which enables them to be in high flexibility. And if I take zeolite now, I will change little. This is a question that in the sense of not changing is perhaps not correct. The cell membrane needs mineralization, the cell membrane needs omega-3, the cell membrane needs a high electricity to let the red blood cells push each other and now really reach the microcapillary space and also pass through to bring the oxygen to the cell. If rouleau formation are there, then the membrane tensions are down, and then I just have to know that it is a task of the intestine that too little dextrorotatory lactic acid is produced, among other things, and thus the development of mucorrhazemus. These are the threads that you see in the plasma. They are like little spider threads, a typical sign for a latent, not deglutition, that's too strong a word, but a disbalance in the pH environment. And that would not be sufficient with zeolite to correct that, but it is not a contraindication, and I am also a Darkfield therapist, I would definitely include that, but also here, of course, through mucokel from the company Sanum, as well as the dextrorotatory lactic acid, in any form, that can be sauerkraut juice, that can be the effective microorganisms, that can also be apple cider vinegar, bio-apple cider vinegar, that can be RMS drops. Make sure that the content of dextrorotatory lactic acid is high, and that gives me a little input about the dextrorotatory lactic acid, maybe to make another broadcast, how important fermentation is, the beautiful broadcast doctor. Kitchen's talk shows how easy it is to produce fermentation, how easy it is to ferment vegetables, so everything that is so milk sour burnt, it also goes in the right direction, to leave the blood in a certain flow property. Through blood clotting in the sense of microcirculation disorder, so where the vessel cross-section is significantly weakened, is always the place where the cell metabolism takes place, and that's where life takes a turn, that's where it comes down to ensuring balance of health, that's where it comes down to, that in the context of metabolic processes on the cellular level, can also be transported. And to perhaps get a little more involved in this topic, also personally, is very, very important. Professor Hecht has always emphasized very much, and it's actually in every package, please take it only 4 weeks, that's a good thing. Maybe you didn't do any studies from an official point of view over these 4 weeks, he himself took it over the years and turned 99 years old. And for me, a natural product, which has a really great and solid positional value in a therapy, where we see today that we humans still have to learn to live with incredibly high loads and to maintain a structure, vessel structure, collagen structure, muscles, tendons, veins, vessel walls. That's all zeolite. That's all silica. Silica is also the inflammatory agent of the third wave, that is, inflammatory processes, by the push of activating the immune system to deal with these processes, stimulated, an incredibly important substance. And I'm not really familiar with actual contraindications. Of course, I don't give it together with thyroid hormones or blood pressure meds, if a person takes it, because it would bind. But otherwise, if you take it early after the morning toilet and maybe cleaned your mouth nicely through oil, for 10 minutes, then brushed your teeth, the first glass of water could be with a bag of silica, either toxaprevent or another zeolite. And I also like to give it in the evening, either between dinner and going to bed, because of the amount of fluid, or sometimes really late, before you go to bed. And then, of course, you shouldn't take it with if you're used to taking something, so that you sleep better. I wouldn't do that together, because zeolite binds. Yes, I thought that maybe now here too, a little answer to the short question would be and is. In this sense, I wish you all a wonderful week and I'm looking forward to your entries and next Sunday. Goodbye.